Okay, there we go. Now I am recording.
All right, you want to go on the 30?
Yeah. Oh, shit. We'll go on the 40.
Okay.
Okay. Now we're cruising. We
just
are cruising, but yeah.
You saw Apocalyptico?
Yeah, Apocalypto, however you say that. And
I'm saying it wrong.
Yeah, but the thing everyone talks about and remembers and all that is that he did this big budget film that's set on location to a degree. It's in Mexico, parts of it, with locals as actors and in the Mayan language and all that stuff. And although it's historically inaccurate in various ways, there's a lot of incredible detail that is accurate, like the jade jewelry that they wear and the outfits and the way that the Mayan civilization looked and the obsidian knives that they had used and stuff. So it's that mixed bag where it's like doing a lot of new cool things that Hollywood doesn't do, at the same time made by a guy who's problematic and has its own other problems. And I gotta wonder, you just gotta wonder, like, what kind of precedents are these movies setting, you know? As fun as they are and as interesting as they can be, I don't know. We're gonna talk about this new big Hollywood flick set in Greece and had nothing to do with Greece, you know. And
yeah.
it's just, what kind of precedent are we setting? What kind of precedent did Hollywood set through its 100-year-long history, you know? And I don't know. Let's tease it out, you know.
Let's tease it out. Yeah, it's like, what's the purpose? What are you trying to get at telling the story in this way? Because it's not about Greece. It's not really about a specific culture. It's a vague imaginary of, you know, what an ancient culture would be. And that can be kind of, you know, interesting to ponder. But is this meant to just be like entertainment and spectacle, or are we meant to like think more concretely about the ancestry of Western culture and stuff like that? And it feels like those two drives are competing, you know. They're going in different directions.
Yeah. And I also think that, and we'll get into this more, but I think like when the budget is high and the expectation's high and all of that stuff, I do feel like any potential error or flaw is at risk of being larger than it would be with a lower budget film, if that makes sense. And for good reason, I'm saying. So, like, if everyone's going into this expecting, you know, near perfection, and then it misses in certain ways, those misses are going to matter because it's contrasted against everything it's trying to be, which is trying to be so much. So we'll see. We'll see if it works.
Yeah, and that creates a weird dissonance with the reception, and the reception for this film so far has been so overwhelmingly positive, and it just you know, I did not have that like incredible experience that it sounds like everyone else is having, but it just makes me feel like, you know, a year, 2-3 years down the line, people will look back at this film and be like, oh, there's actually a ton of flaws, and isn't it so weird how everyone lined up and just applauded it, you know, on release. So that's weird, kind of knowing that sort of thing has happened in the past, and but living in this moment when everyone's going, oh, he did it, it's so great, it's the biggest film ever made, I've never seen anything more epic and masterful, you know, it's a masterpiece.
Yeah, to immediately claim that this movie's a masterpiece is, on the one hand, you are definitely forgiving certain flaws, and I think that forgiveness is strange because of how high of the expectations there were. And on the other hand, it's like everybody is saying that. And I just find it interesting, too, to watch the brains, the what is it called? The group think a little bit. Everybody, every single review that you read, for the most part, 95% of them are talk about the technical aspect of this film and how he used film and practical effects. And you're like, oh, man, like, where is the unique review out of this parroting going on? I find it very bizarre. I find it kind of troubling, to be honest, the culture and where we're at, and doing my best to try to seek out any interesting takes that, are from somebody who's really critically thinking and not just parroting what everyone else is saying.
Yeah. It's tough to find people willing to do that publicly at this point. Not to say that people are being quiet about the flaws necessarily, but I think everyone who is a public, writer or podcaster or someone talking about movies these days wants to really advocate for the industry and for theatrical movie going, because it is felt like that industry's been in a precarious place for the last decade.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Everyone, when they see someone even just attempting to make another grand scale film like this, mm-hmm. they want to champion it. They want to say yes, everyone go see this. Everyone go support theaters and stuff. And I don't know. I can't help but feel like that's what happened in the 60s when they kept going bigger and bigger with the big road show, sword and sandals epics and musicals and all that stuff, until they just got so bloated and so corny and old-fashioned, and the industry suffered from putting all their money into that,
That's a good point. Why would it be the case that profit or numbers is necessarily the metric to go on here? Other art forms at this point don't use that as their main metric because they can't, on one hand, and they don't need to. If you have a devoted group of people who love going to the cinema for movies made by artists and creatives who are shooting lower budget films, reorient to them. For all the critiques one could give A24 and whatever, and the kind of movies they've created, kind of vibes that they go for now and everything, they're a good, they were and are a good organization to look at for the kind of thing that we would rather see, instead of this constant, we need bigger and bigger and more people. Because at that point, you're just looking to bring the general audience to the theaters, and the general audience is going to more or less be interested in entertainment than something impactful, artful, potentially challenging. And so, yeah, who cares? Who cares? The industry dying simply means that it gets smaller. Some people see if the industry got smaller, that would be a big blow to them. It's like, yeah. Who cares if it gets smaller? And it's not going to die. People love movies, but maybe change the scope, maybe change the way that the industry works, and don't prop it up so much on all of these, entertainment, Marvel type things. Change the scope. Pretty simple. It's like theater. It's like for theater. If you imagine that we need a bigger show, we're going to hit the road. It's going to be every city. That's not what they do. They changed their scope a long time ago. And so there's only a few cities that do them today. And if you want to see a great show, you're going to have to go to New York, most likely. And that's how it is. So if the industry dies, who cares? God, because that's a great point. If the industry dies because it can't reinvent itself, or because people don't care about movies A24 makes, and you instead have a smaller, devoted group of people, it's like, who cares if the industry dies? Because it's not going to die out completely.
No, that's the thing. There's people find ways to make movies one way or another, you know.
Mhm.
If you know your number one favorite type of film, the thing you want to see is the biggest budget, you know, I want someone to have those resources so they can make something like, I don't know, I just can't get there with you. We started out this podcast talking about the biggest film, Lawrence of Arabia, and it would not crack the top 10 of films that we've talked about. Like, for me, like at some point, yes, like you see things in films that you don't see in smaller budget films, but that doesn't, the things that some of these smaller films are able to do emotionally get you thinking, get you just feeling ways that you haven't felt. That none of that is you know, contingent on how much money they had when they made it. That often gets in the way as those figures grow bigger and bigger.
Mhm.
And the cracks are showing in how they advertise these films, like what these films are sold on, the technical stuff that the Odyssey is being sold on. It looks good. It looks good. It's not that impressive technically because of a couple different reasons, but like, you know, there's this thing with the different formats and the different aspect ratios. The IMAX 70mm is a much boxier size than the regular digital that you'll see in most theaters, or it's even taller than the 70mm that the regular 70mm that I got to go see it in. But the consequence of them framing this film for every single one of those ratios is that the image is not that like unique. It's not considered like as closely as a film that knows what the aspect ratio is going to be going in, you know? Like when you look at those images of the IMAX 70mm for this film, it's just more negative space on the top and the bottom. Like it's not contributing like information or really like artistic stuff of interest into the frames, you know. And it's another symptom of an issue that I've had with a lot of recent films, and we kind of talked about it with like Obsession and stuff on the Backrooms episode, where we have a lot of this shallow focus, we have a lot of this center framing, and you know, each shot is basically only trying to tell you like one thing. You know, we're not trying to create a canvas, a world in the image that can say different things to you.
Yeah, the mise en scène.
Yeah. Like, what happened to that?
Yeah,
I don't know. There's. I want to recommend an episode of this podcast, Film Formally, that recently came out, where they talk about large format myths and how these filmmakers and cinematographers talk about this like it's like you can't achieve an image that you can achieve with IMAX 70mm with another format. It's just not possible. There's just something different about it. And that's functionally like not true. You know, you put a lens, like you just change the lens size as your like what's it called, like image field or whatever changes. If it's smaller, you put the different, you know, you change the lens size to correspond to that. Like,
yeah, you just mean like the frame.
Yeah, we're getting to this place, you know, beyond the 4K images and stuff, where our eyes can't differentiate what we're seeing, these different resolutions. So there's not, like, you could have shot this on the regular 35mm. You could have shot this with a digital camera and made it functionally look the same. It would not have, especially for the 90% people who are going to go to a theater that has, you know, a worn out laser projector that hasn't been cleaned in a while. They're not going to be able to tell the difference between this film and that film that would have been shot on a regular digital camera.
Yeah. And actually, Yeah, one of the things that's very odd to me is if you're shooting in film today, you're competing with, in some sense, films shot on digital. So they're doing their best with a movie like this to make it look somewhat like digital, or as close in proximity to digital as they can, just as in terms of clarity, in terms of color, because you don't want to throw your audience off too much since, like you said, it's the popular audience. By contrast, something like Begonia, where the coloration of it is a little bit more saturated, more contrasty. It's a little bit strange, it's matching the tone of the movie, which is alien, which is conspiratorial, right? It's a little weird, and all of his films are kind of like that. So you can for sure tell the difference with a movie that's shot on film, when it's a certain film stock and it's trying not to look like digital, but to look a little bit more textural, right? And so it's setting a mood for the whole film. But with a movie like this, it's absolutely true that for the most part, you can't tell the difference. And then the problem is, as beautiful as it is, because it's shot on film and attempting to look like digital in terms of its clarity and color and all that stuff, then there are moments where it doesn't do that. There were a couple times where it either went out of focus and stayed out of focus, or it was shot in a certain light. I remember distinctly, it was one of the earlier moments when it was a shot of Tom Holland, and in one angle it was pretty clear. It looked like digital. It was well exposed and all that stuff. And then the next angle, the next shot, was like faded shadows, kind of grainy, and it would look so different from the previous shot. It threw me off, and that's only something that will happen if you're shooting on film. So I would actually argue and say that if you're shooting like this and you're not perfect, which can happen because you're shooting on film, then it will be fucked at times. And again, like I said at the top of this, if this thing cost as much as it did, took as much time as it did, had as high expectations as it did, and you're cutting from one perfectly exposed shot to an imperfectly exposed shot, I mean, what are we doing? What are we doing? Well, I mean, I'm serious. And that's so true. Why not just dial it back and go shoot it more like with flavor, like The Godfather or an Altman film or something? What is the point of trying to be so technically perfect if you actually can't even do it? Just don't even try. God damn.
It's very strange. It's very this dissonance going on, like where Chris Nolan believes this is like the thing that gets everyone the most focused and into it, like, because it's imperfect and we're using this finite amount of film and stuff, but then he doesn't care. But then his films are very sloppy technically.
Yeah. So bizarre. Oh my god,
it's strange. Yeah, you mentioned the focus. I was very distracted, and I felt like it had to have been purposeful that they were like, let's be a little slow with the focus on some of these scenes. There's like one where Anne Hathaway is emoting quite a bit. It's hard to narrow down from her scenes which one that is, but she keeps leaning in and leaning back in the scene, and the focus is like delayed, following her. And I just thought, like, I guess at some point they decided they liked how this looked, but it was so distracting.
Yeah, well, there was another where they were in the hall, the dining hall, and it rack focused between two characters twice in the same shot, back and forth, and not a single one of those times was it in focus.
Yeah.
And so we got these people that are raving about its technical audacity, and the fact is, you didn't pull it off. You just didn't. Of course it's beautiful because you turned the camera on and you put film in it. Like it's, you're good at, it's going to be good somewhat. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. You went to Greece. Like,
Yeah.
You were out on the Mediterranean. Like, yeah, it's going to look pretty good.
There are movies. There are other movies that are way more technically perfect than this one. So many more. It's unbelievable.
Yeah.
So good. I'm glad that we got that out of the way. If you want to
look, you might want to go to the big budget enthusiasts, the advocates, the people who say, go to this film, 5 stars. We got to keep theaters alive. You might want to go listen to them, but some Like It Unauthorized. We're going to give it to you. A little cynical here, I guess. And I'm J. Brooks Young.
Yeah. And I'm Zach Domes.
What were you saying?
Somebody's got to do it. Yeah. What do you think of Tom Holland?
He was like one of the only things you mentioned in your text to me. We kept it pretty close to the vest how our viewings were. I was not distracted by him. I thought it was fine. I don't know. Throughout this film, I was not super invested in the story itself. And so I thought, compared to everyone else, I thought he did his job fine. He was really upset that all these suitors were coming around and being rowdy, and he really wanted to be king or whatever. It's a little strange that he and Robert Pattinson are using American accents in this film, where we've cast people from all over, from both sides of the pond. It's a little weird. I'm wondering, was that the biggest thing? Was it just he's playing like this, little American boy, and that was weird?
No. I don't particularly care about who plays what role at all. I don't care about that at all. What bothers me is his act. I just wonder how he got to such a high level of an acting career. I just don't buy his acting for some reason. I feel like all the rest of the cast was fine. Damon's performance was pretty good, Hathaway. But Holland, for some reason, I just feel like he'd be a great guy to hang out with, and that's what kind of feel like I'm watching a buddy act, is what it kind of feels like. So for anyone who loves Holland, I'm sorry to say, I just feel like it's like, I don't know. I just don't buy it. It feels like,
I do feel like he's one of those actors who doesn't really disappear into like a period film like this. He feels like a modern person, and I don't know. We have a lot of people that feel like that in the cast of the Odyssey. So
like they get like a modern person dressed up in gear. Very weird. Very, very weird. And it took me a long time to let go of that distraction from myself. And so, it would go back to the timeline, would go back to Damon's journey. And then it would cut back to Holland, and I would be kind of taken out of it again. And it wasn't for me until the last quarter of the film where I really started to feel much more involved with the story. And I did feel like it crescendoed and came together quite well and in an evocative, emotional way at the end. And I appreciated that. But for the first three quarters, it really felt like I was just I was being carried along by this classic Nolan fast-paced camera work. The same thing with Oppenheimer and Interstellar. It's great of films as they are in terms of their entertainment value and being fun and everything. I also just find his kind of style of directing to be jarring and too much going on, too fast. There's, you're not allowed to sink into any of the characters too much ever. And so you just sort of buckle up and you go along for the ride.
Yeah. These characters do not go to sleep, They don't they don't sit down and do
They're
nothing
running. Constantly running.
Every single island they get off of, it's a matter of sprinting back to the boat.
It's unbelievable. I mean, the last time when I was literally laughing, and I felt bad for the people who were around me when they were running from the dead people, because they didn't need to run from the dead people. That wasn't necessary. I don't think. Totally unnecessary run after many other fleeing moments. And I was literally laughing at that part. I'm very sorry to say that was not at all. There's nothing at stake anymore. I don't care. I no longer care because I've seen them flee from monsters 4 times. And now they're running across this empty blackness from the dead. You know what it was? It was meant to feel so epic constantly. And now here we are running again. All hundreds of men running. Hundreds of men chasing them. It's like...
It was dialed up quite a bit. And I don't know. Maybe it's just us. Like, I frequently felt like, okay, we have a bunch of people fighting again. And it's really loud. I was just not in it for a lot of sequences. And I'll say too, I just want to make sure I don't miss this point. I don't know why we had to end the film with like a John Wick fight sequence. It got a little over the top. Like,
well, that felt very reminded me of something that you would see in the 90s or the 2000s, where there's a guy up top sending the weapons down to the guy below, and they're sort of, the way it's cut and edited is so 90s feeling. If people revisit this on a kind of regular screen in their home and they're watching that scene, I mean, it feels like a kind of archaic scene, to be honest. In the big IMAX theater,
Batman.
That's true.
He wanted Odysseus to put the mask on at that point.
I mean, he's fighting off. Right, he's fighting off so many people. I don't know. It's very strange. Because the thing is, again, I don't know how many different ways I can say this, but obviously it is fun and technically grand and ambitious. But that means that the flaws should be great, more of a microscope on the flaws. I don't understand. Who's coming away from this going, yes, I had huge expectations for this, and they were matched in every way. So strange. I want to really... Okay, but here's the other problem.
Mm-hmm.
I said with a lot of these reviews, I'm looking at it, I'm seeing parroting reviews where everyone talks about the technical, but I don't see a lot of reviews in depth about the real, what they came away feeling after it, how grand some of the acting performances really were. I mean, there's some that will do that, but they often feel like Nolan lovers, people who just would say that about any Nolan film.
Mm-hmm.
This isn't film at a level where people walk away feeling like it changed how, it moved film forward. People may feel that way, especially if they haven't, if they're kind of younger, hadn't seen too many other films from the past. What it's doing is it's simply doing what film's already done, and it's doing it at a high level, that in an entertaining way. But much more than that, I'm at a loss to say what it's doing, what kind of torch it's carrying forward for what has come before.
No, you were saying before we started recording that watching Apocalypto, these big action films start to get a little samey. And I feel like increasingly I'm kind of done with the Denis Villeneuve Dune style, like modern blockbuster. It's very grim and serious, but the ideas are very surface level, and a lot of the images, a lot of the like big budget stuff. I don't know. We've seen a lot of this. I don't know how you like go to this film and get really swept up with the stuff happening. Like it's been done before. I don't know.
Yeah, it's been done many times. If you're greatly impacted by some scene where they're like when they're pulling the horse over the dunes. I mean that kind of scene and all those various scenes that do things like that props the film up in that technical way, in that practical effects way. For sure, it props the film up, and it elevates what could be a more Marvel type of high CGI movie. It elevates it beyond that to a degree, no doubt. But I think for a lot of people, that element alone outshines most of the other problems that it has. So you have all these people who are reviewing it mostly based on, I would just call it effort, but that's what a film should have. And so then you have this thing where it's like the movies of the past are definitely way better than this. Like if you think Wages of Fear, for example, from what year? 1958 or something?
Yeah, earlier than that even.
I mean, how many is decades ago? And you compare that kind of Odyssey. I mean, I suppose that's kind of like an Odyssey, right?
Yeah.
It's an adventure. And it's all practical effects. And it's the emotional weight of that film, the tenseness that one can still feel watching that film, even though it was made decades ago. That was both effort and artistry, like real artistry, in the sense that the direction of that movie caused those characters to produce intense emotional performances. And some of the scenes were slower, they're more thoughtful. And with this, it's like I just keep getting the sense that with this and Project Hail Mary, or you could even say Sinners, these are interesting films, but I'm getting the sense that people are claiming that they are masterpieces or amazing films, generational films, simply due to the fact that they're contrasting them against other blockbusters that they've seen and hated. Because these other blockbusters don't have real effort anymore. They're cutting corners. They're using CGI. Yeah. They're making their little designers and their CGI artists slave away for very little to produce slop. And so here comes a guy that uses the same effort that's been used in films of the past, and he gets this kind of best director ever label just because he's using effort, like one should do with a movie.
Yeah, but it's very sloppy. It just feels like they get lost in the process of making this film. Like, I don't know. I feel like this editor, Oscar-winning editor, is like in distress in the process of editing this film. It feels so like slapped together and frantic and unsure of how to like make this cohere. There's like so much that's rushed, and it's just so.
Yeah, well, and I felt the exact same way with Oppenheimer, and so I was thrown off by Oppenheimer so much because I had seen his films before. Everyone's seen Interstellar and everyone's seen Inception, and those movies are meant to be kind of cut in wild ways. And then, of course, he goes on to make Tenet, which I never saw, but I know, obviously, everyone's reaction is the same, which is no one knows what's going on because that thing's cut up and edited in so insanely that no one knows what's going on. So I watched Oppenheimer thinking maybe he's dialing it back because do you really need to edit the hell out of a movie about a scientist who happened to kind of create this huge world history-changing technology? No, I mean, you don't. You can be creative, and you can find ways to tell that story that's exciting and invigorating and all that, but not have to go crazy with some of the shots and some of the editing and all that stuff. But I was sitting there watching Oppenheimer, like, this thing's moving freaking a mile, like miles a minute. I couldn't believe how poorly done that film was in terms of its pacing. It was, if you watch that back, just try to watch it for its pacing. It's bizarre. I don't know what people like about it besides it being entertaining.
Yeah.
So I was ready.
I feel like that. Sorry.
Yeah.
No, what were you saying?
Well, just because my reaction to Oppenheimer was that way, I was prepared for bizarre editing yet again. And I will be forever. I think Nolan's editing has been terrible since Tenet. Yeah, I think he lost some plot there. I don't know why or how. Oh, Dunkirk was also pretty good, too. So maybe post-Dunkirk, I don't know what's going on for him.
Yeah, I never caught up with Dunkirk or Tenet.
But even Dunkirk was a little ambitious. It's like, do you really need to tell this story on 3 different time frames? You know do you know about it? How one there's 3 different there's 3 different narratives. One's in like minutes, one's in hours, one's in.
Yeah. No, I have heard about that. What's interesting actually is Odyssey in comparison is much more straightforward. I think it's closer to how the poem itself is structured. It does a little more jumping back and forth, I think, between what's going on in Ithaca and Odysseus's journey, but we're not doing. Some people kind of wondered if we were going to have more jumping across time in a Dunkirk way. And it's pretty straightforward, but it's so rushed. It's so like cramped, and you don't get to look at things like, because we're editing between shots so quickly.
Yeah. The Cyclops scene was a good example of that, where, it's like the chase scene, leaving there, There's just plenty of movies that have found a way to do that with more drama and more emotionally. It was exciting, but it was kind of like, by the time you're kind of running down out of there through the woods back to the ships, you sort of see that slow moving Cyclops stomping behind them. I mean, how many movies could we think of? I mean, just because I love this movie so much, I reference it often. Many of Jurassic Park scenes make this kind of pale in comparison, to be honest. Running from the Tyrannosaurus Rex in a Jeep. That shit is crazy even today. And this Cyclops scene just sort of ultimately not that terrifying. And that's not, I don't think that's actually a fault of Nolan. I think that kind of what you're saying is that's more a fault, or that's more just a byproduct of like, can it really even be done any longer? We've had narrow escapes at countless times in movies. The movie 2012 or Day After Tomorrow, these kind of high-packed adrenaline adventure movies, all it is that. The whole thing is a running from the apocalyptic, disaster. And it became sort of funny. All the characters, all they do the whole time is escape narrowly.
Yeah.
We've done it, so now a big Cyclops he's not that scary.
Or some medium-sized guys. We get a bunch of different sizes of guys chasing Odysseus. And it kind of plays out the same way each time. No, this is why I thought, at least with Oppenheimer, this editing and this breakneck pace was a little more interesting because it was mapped onto a real world event. And I felt like it kind of served this feeling of precarity during World War II, and how is this going to resolve, and what's going to happen if we're actually able to, construct this bomb and all that stuff. Like, I feel like that's at least that's a new way to kind of, map out a story like that, versus just kind of doing the same kind of action adventure stuff, in this story,
Mm-hmm.
And it's strange too that the kind of character philosophical themes of Oppenheimer get grafted onto the Odyssey. And again, it's about a guy grappling with this idea that he's changed the world, he's broken Zeus's law, and the consequences are going to ripple throughout history from here on. It's strange. I think I saw the woman who translated the Odyssey recently. What's her name? Emily Wilson. I think I saw her criticizing the film a bit, that it felt like a lot of these themes got flattened out in sake of just, making this big entertaining film. And, it like Nolan's coming to this with that idea of, this grief-stricken man who feels like he's changed the world for the worse. And that's his main thing that he wants to tackle with this story, that I do think has a lot going on, a lot more kind of complexity, and people have, done more interesting stuff with this story, with this kind of character before.
Yeah. True. Yeah, what do you think of Benny Safdie's character performance?
It was more fun when he was in the armor. It seemed a little strange when we heard him speak.
Yeah.
Just an interesting choice there.
Interesting choice. I felt like it was fun. The casting overall, though, was, I think at this point, and people keep saying this these days. You see this being said often, that constantly having to sign up celebrities for these roles. There's like no character that's just not a lesser known actor. And I think I personally do think there's truth to that, like find somebody new, find someone we don't know, like, because now you are going to end up with the whole baggage from what we know about that person, the interviews, the previous movies. And I also think you limit yourself to a degree, because I don't know if the casting was great. And a lot of these big movies with all these celebrities, it's strange that these are supposed to be the top performing actors of our time. And yet at times you're like, what is going on here? It just sort of feels like they're emoting. Yeah. So Zendaya as an example there, I suppose. Zendaya, though, every time she comes into frame, I'm thinking, oh, of course she was chosen for that role, because that's just what she does well. She kind of has a pouty face, and she does the pouty face very well, but now I'm just seeing Zendaya do the pouty face. Who am I
now I'm watching like a perfume commercial, basically.
Yeah, these guys are in every commercial, every show, every movie. And I'm very interested to see if there's anyone new, anybody unknown, It
really feels like he did not think that he was gonna have to cut this down as much as he did. Like, it just feels like he had in mind, like, this was gonna be an 8-hour thing or something. Because it is distracting, like, how many of these big actors have such small roles. Mia Goth has, like, 2 scenes, basically. That was distracting. Like...
Yeah, I was like, is that Mia Goth? Yeah, because you now you got all these people. Is that Mia Goth? Oh my God, is that Mia Goth? That is Mia Goth. She looks so different there, doesn't she? And then you're like, what is she even doing in that role? Yeah, she doesn't do anything. Well, yeah, no, she was supposed to be much more rebellious in a way. Yeah.
Oh. In what way?
Well, all of her characters previously are very like sort of villainous, And in this, it's kind of a villainous character because she's teaming up with the bad guy. But there's not enough time for you to actually even care. Or for her to really, there's not enough time for her to provide the kind of quality of performance she's given in the past. She's in like 2 scenes, like you said. So she's cast as that character because it's sort of similar to other characters she's played. But there's not enough time for it to matter. Might as well choose. We might as well choose anyone else. Choose someone who hasn't been in a big movie yet. Yeah.
Yeah, it just really feels like he thought he was going to have much more time than he ended up having.
Yeah.
And everyone was going to have a big role.
Yeah.
Lupita Nyong'o as Helen and her twin sister. I feel like she was like rushing to get her lines out. She was like, like they told me I'm only going to be in 10 seconds of this movie. I have to speak really fast.
Yeah, that's what I end up feeling. I feel like the whole thing is quite a rush. It's quite exciting. And then afterwards, I'm like, what happened? And why'd that go by so fast? And I start thinking of all these movies that somehow crafted scenes out of maybe more going on in the scene, longer takes, longer shots, and kind of some downtime where we can come into the film with more depth. I mean, there's literally certain movies, they're not necessarily action-packed movies, but movies where we're focused on something very simple and it's very slow, but what it does is it changes the nature of time and how we experience time. It's meant to bring us into that moment in a different kind of way. And I just feel like with most Nolan films I've seen, this high pace, high cut kind of way of shooting causes the time to feel like, yes, exciting, but ultimately flat. And I just don't know. I'll be very curious to see how people will respect these films in the years to come. You go back to it and you're like, there's always going to be people who are like, yeah, that was super fun. But was it great? Was it as great as the reactions have been? I don't know.
I don't know. It almost feels like it's getting the same praise as One Battle After Another last year.
Sure. For sure.
And
if not more.
Yeah. And it feels like a reach. It feels like we really want this to be that great. So we're gonna will it into being that great.
Yeah.
You can pick apart some things in One Battle After Another, but I was just thinking, like, I am wowed by how they shot that film much more than this one. And I think it's that editing. I think that editing is the thing to look at with this. Like, you were talking earlier about all the extras pulling the Trojan horse out of the sand and stuff, and I feel like by the time we get to the battle in the city, it feels like we're just watching him run around a set because it's being edited so frantically. And at least in One Battle After Another, they had a lot of these long, one-shot sequences where it felt like he was moving through these different spaces very organically, and you didn't know where he was going to go, what was going to happen next. And it just, it felt constrained in this film. This is supposed to be big, expansive thing, and I often felt like we were stuck.
I could see that. For me, I think I felt that way till maybe about halfway. And then I did feel like I got strung along by the journey. And I do find myself begin to come into tune with the pace of the editing and what's trying to be achieved. I feel like I do start to sync up with maybe what he's trying to achieve there. And it is that sense of it sort of feels like speeding up with the time that he's carving out, the time that he's creating by this pacing, this editing style. And it starts to feel like that rush feeling, like it's all rushing, it's all urgent, and it's exciting, right? But again, because of kind of some of the things you're saying, although I might not feel that way during, pretty soon after, I do start to feel like it all just felt so urgent and rushed. And then all of the issues, like with that set feeling, like the feeling like you're on set watching oh man, yeah, you're absolutely right. I was thinking of the overhead shots when you said that, and how you're watching the army kind of take over the city from above. That I was thinking of when you first said it, and that felt like a set to some degree. But yeah, absolutely, when the towers are crumbling, that felt for some reason like a set. I don't know why. I was like, you're not watching a tower collapse onto people. And that's actually a problem with practical effects. When all you ever use is practical effects, you are going to end up with scenes and moments that feel a little dated. And so with this kind of tower crumbling, that's kind of barely on fire, and the tower falls on no one. Nobody dies when the tower falls, by the way. Not a single person. Right? There's
you don't know who's inside.
Somehow, well, maybe there's people inside, but as far as we see, they've somehow cleared out that vicinity. So this huge tower crumbles onto no one. So there's absolutely no risk involved, and it's just a tower crumbling, really. I mean, I do remember thinking, no, I'm watching a tower crumble, And in other movies, you're going to be like, you're going to feel the tower crumbling. You're going to be beneath it. You're going to watch people die underneath it. It's going to be alarming and crazy catastrophe. Here, it was kind of like, it's another tower falling now too. So, is that a third one? What's the third tower falling?
Yeah. If you're not taken in with the pace of it, the momentum, then that problem that Nolan has always had, he's always been kind of pinned with, of being unimaginative, I think, is going to really rub you the wrong way watching this. Just like, yeah, a tower's gonna implode on itself. Like, it's that same like Inception thing of, oh, this is what dreams are. Dreams are just like sterile environments doing MC Escher things. Like, dreams have no weird subconscious psychosexual things going on, or like it's more of the Nolan thing. He likes playing with architecture and things being very grim and austere and safe. This could have been like PG-13 basically. Somehow it was an R rating, but like it did not feel imaginative to me. You could have done so many things with this story, You could have had some color. Like, we know, right, or we have pretty good speculation that Greek and Roman civilizations were not actually like, those blank marble, like grays and whites and blacks. Like, they probably painted that stuff and the paint just wore away over the centuries. But like, you had all the license in the world to be colorful and imaginative, and it feels like he just went the safest, most obvious route with most of this stuff. And apparently most people don't feel that way, but I don't know, come back to this in a couple of years, and maybe we'll sound less crazy for criticizing this as much as we have.
Yeah. Maybe not. One thing I did want to note about something you said previously, with his characters and all of the different characters he chose, and how you imagined maybe he thought there'd be more time. His third pick, his top 3 movie in his Criterion, when he did an interview with Criterion Collection, he said that The Thin Red Line by Malick was his third favorite, or something like that. And that movie is known for having like a huge number of celebrities act in it, and there's no main character. So it's also possible that he was just kind of pulling a Malick in that way, where he can work with anyone he wants. So why not choose a well-known huge celebrity to act in 1 minute and do that several times? because you can.
Yeah. If he wanted to go down the Lord of the Rings route, there's probably an extended cut with a lot more of those people in it. I don't know if that's his.
Oh, Lord.
If that's the kind of thing he likes to do.
Yeah, I don't know. Well, if this isn't your favorite movie of the year so far, what would be your favorite movie of the year so far? Halfway through.
Let me look. A lot of people are going to say Blue Heron, and that didn't quite sit with me the way that I wanted it to. There's criticisms of that film that I feel are very valid, but I might go with a recent one, which would be Maddie's Secret.
Oh, nice.
Which is, I don't know how you describe it. It's almost a satire of the old Lifetime movie about a woman dealing with, some personal issues. I don't want to spoil the stuff in that film, but it's almost taking that Lifetime thing. John early has referenced like Paul Verhoeven films like Showgirls as well, but just like doing a kind of over the top melodrama of those kinds of films, poking a little bit of fun at it, but also kind of treating those characters very like seriously at the same time. That sounds contradictory, but I don't know. It's a film you gotta see and experience. Hopefully it's still showing in theaters and people can go see that. But Maddie's Secret, it's one of the freshest, most thought-provoking films that I've seen. And it would probably be at the top of the list for me this year so far.
Nice. Yeah, see, that's a movie that's, independent, more, lower budget, but it's doing something new. It's artistic. Come on. I want to see the people flock to something like that.
Yeah,
What are you going to do?
I got to see a Q&A with John early in person, and he said, I know this is supposed to be like the cult movie that fails and gets the audience later on. Can we just like skip the fail part and make this a success?
Exactly. That's great. I love that.
Yeah. But what's your top film for this year so far?
Well, I don't think I've seen too many, to be honest. There's a bit of a toss-up between, The Invite. I appreciate it. I think I don't necessarily relate to it, but it's more my, like, age, kind of like a story about people kind of my age, upper 30s, lower 40s, and just the troubles of being in a relationship. And I thought it was funny the whole way through. So it was nice to watch a comedy that was actually a comedy. I think Seth Rogen. I haven't laughed at Seth Rogen as much as I did there since I don't know, one of his earlier films.
Yeah. Someone talking about that film said that it feels like comedies haven't been able to be mean in a while, and how kind of acidic that film gets.
Yeah.
Everyone gets taken down a peg, and it's emphasis on the word peg.
Yeah.
It was fun, Yeah,
I started laughing out loud more than I have in a long time towards the end. So the fact that this gets funnier too. It's funnier and funnier for me. Or the drama, I appreciated a lot. I thought the drama was also very ambitious in its story. I thought it was very thought-provoking. It caused a ripple in culture in a fun way. So both those also piquing my interest, and those are up against some of these other recently loved films like Backrooms and Obsession and stuff like that. I did feel like as good as they were. I haven't seen Toy Story 5 yet, so who knows? Who knows if that list changes? Disclosure.
You haven't seen
just
Minions and Monsters either. That could rocket up your list, let me tell you.
When did this movie, the Nirvana, the band, the show, the movie, is that technically last year?
I think that got a U.S. release this year.
Because that would be it then.
That was another terrific comedy.
Yeah. That was so ambitious and so insane. I think that the things that one was doing might if it could be considered this year, then I would say that one.
I'm looking.
On the site I'm looking at here, it says technically 9th of March last year. What the hell? Where was that?
That was at South by Southwest.
Okay.
I'm seeing, according to Letterboxd, it got a limited theatrical release in the U.S. in February of this year.
Okay.
So I think you'd count that as a 2026.
And we as a rule, the whole film community should just be doing releases based on the public release. I mean, what are we doing thinking that movie would have ever been released in March of last year? That was a festival. That's not a release. That's a festival showing, right? That's a limited.
Right.
2 people saw that movie in March. So if we're going to count a release, it's got to be a public, more than 3 theaters,
Right. When they locked the edit and screened it to the executives, that wasn't them releasing it.
When they watched it for the first time themselves, that was not the release of the movie.
They call cut, and everyone goes, "We just released a film, you guys."
Yeah, this is we're getting out of control here. And part of the problem is now anybody can say when. That's actually part of the issue. Online, you have this Wikipedia-ization of the internet, where anyone can update IMDb or, and that's what people do. People go in there and they update all these details of these movies. And one of those details is obviously that when it was released in a festival, but that should be clearly, without debate, that should be emphasized as it was shown at these festivals, but its release date was blank. What are we doing? What are we doing?
I don't know.
Oh my God, it's getting out of control. The whole thing's a mess. This is chaos. But we're holding it down here. We're holding it down.
Yeah. I got one more recommendation for people. There's a wonderful podcast about genre literature called Shelved by Genre that I've been following for a while. They've been reading through Lord of the Rings this year. Actually, all of the Tolkien, The Hobbit included, and talking about it critically. And it's a really good show, but I want to say it was on their last Two Towers episode. They did a rundown in the second half of the history of epic literature and what Tolkien was going for, because he had talked in letters and stuff about thinking that England didn't have a national myth, and he wanted to write something like a national myth for England. And there's a big history of that. He didn't claim Arthurian legend because it was too Scottish or too Welsh or whatever. That was in England, There's a lot of weird contours to that, but they talk about Virgil's Aeneid, which of course comes after the Odyssey and the Iliad. But everyone's kind of looking at these poems, Homer's epic poems, and trying to redo that for their own country. But the interesting thing I think about these poems and about Beowulf similarly is that they're not, I don't think they're trying to be about a culture, about the origins of a group of people. That the Odyssey's more of a parable about, getting into different situations and how you should act and how you should, not be too foolhardy in this instance and remember to respect people and respect the gods. And I don't know, it's more like an Aesop's fable in a way, but set to a kind of epic scale. But it's very interesting to think about what the original poem is. It wasn't just like it wasn't an action movie. It was, I don't know, it was something different. But people should go check out Shelved by Genre for more considerations of where this stuff comes from and what it has meant to people over the years and stuff. Because there's a lot more interesting thoughts to dig out of this stuff, rather, besides, is Matt Damon the coolest guy in the world or not?
Nice. I appreciate that. That's great. That's really great. This it probably goes so deep, and I will say, any credit to give here to Nolan is this is a movie, so make it fun, and you're not going to be, able to plumb the great depths of the history of all this stuff in 3 hours, but at least you can send us on a roller coaster, and that is something he did. But could we have done a little bit more complexity and creativity? Yeah. Was it fun? Yeah.
I think that sums it up.
Nice. Well, this was not 3 hours, fortunately, but it was a good conversation about a fun little movie. And next week, I think you already had said this, but
yeah, we've been messing with the schedule and stuff. We will get to talking about, one way or another, Sarah Gomez, her weird little docu-fiction, whatever you want to call it, out of Cuba. It's a strange film. We've been chewing on it, and we'll finally talk about it next time next time you hear from us. And go to unauthorizedpod.com and go exploring. Go on your own Odyssey and see what we have for you there.
Yeah, exactly. And we have a good lineup coming up after that too. So stay tuned. Did you call out unauthorizedpod.com for all the info and letterboxd links and all that stuff?
Yeah. That's where they can do their Odyssey.
Oh, is that what you said?
To the website. Yeah.
Yeah. God, it's getting a little warm up here in the office.
Yeah. Same
Till
here.
next time, huh?
Till next time. Peace.